Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. Imagine plugging in a really large artificial intelligence server rack, and you suddenly realize the electricity bill alone is going to bankrupt the company.
Yeah, right before the hardware even pays for itself.
Exactly. That is the exact reality confronting large technology platforms today.
Yeah.
You reach a certain scale, and the raw cost of power and generalized computing just becomes this existential threat to your profit margins.
Right. It's a huge burden.
So today, we have a headline that perfectly illustrates how the industry is trying to solve this problem. Qualcomm is currently in talks to provide custom chip design services to ByteDance. Our mission today is to break down this headline and identify the specific winners and losers in the hardware market as a result of this development.
We are looking at a broader movement happening across the entire tech sector here. The AI hardware trade is moving far beyond a simple narrative of, companies just buying more standard graphics processing units or GPUs.
Right, the standard off-the-shelf stuff.
Exactly. Large platforms are aggressively seeking custom silicon now. And they're doing this for a few very specific reasons. They want to lower their day-to-day operational costs, to gain more control over their own supply chains.
Make themselves less dependent.
Yeah, they really want to reduce their reliance on any single hardware provider.
The financial motive here reminds me of a business that decides to stop paying for expensive, off-the-rack software licenses. And instead, they just hire a dedicated developer to build an in-house application.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right, because the upfront effort is much higher. You have to endure the entire development process, and you take on way more initial risk. But the long-term operational costs drop dramatically once that custom system is up and running.
That analogy perfectly captures the financial mechanics at play. I mean, when a company buys a standard GPU, they are paying a premium price for extreme versatility. A standard GPU can do almost anything you ask of it.
It's a jack of all trades.
Exactly. But when a platform like ByteDance reaches a global scale, paying a premium for versatility they don't necessarily need becomes a severe financial burden. They realize they can achieve vastly superior financial performance by designing silicon tailored exclusively to their highly specific operations.
So since companies want these custom solutions, we naturally start with the companies providing the bespoke design services.
Yeah.
These are our direct winners.
Right.
Qualcomm, ticker QCOM, is the primary focus of the headline. But why Qualcomm? I mean, we traditionally know them for making the chips inside smartphones.
Well, that smartphone legacy is exactly why they're positioned to win here. Think about what a smartphone chip has to do. It has to perform complex calculations without draining a tiny battery.
Yeah, and without melting the phone in your hand.
Right. So Qualcomm spent over a decade mastering low-power, highly efficient computing. Now, take that low-power engineering DNA and apply it to a sprawling data center.
Oh, I see.
If Qualcomm can help ByteDance design an AI chip that runs even a fraction cooler and uses a fraction less electricity...
The cost savings at ByteDance's scale are astronomical.
Absolutely. If these talks progress, the market will start viewing Qualcomm less as a legacy mobile provider and more as a custom AI silicon partner.
But Qualcomm is not the only player with this kind of expertise, right?
Yeah.
We also have Broadcom, ticker AVGO, and Marvell Technology, ticker MRVL, falling into this winning category.
Yeah, Broadcom and Marvell are heavily entrenched in custom chip design, networking silicon, and data center infrastructure. The reason these specific companies win comes down to the nature of application-specific integrated circuits.
The ASICs.
We call them ASICs, yeah. Custom ASICs are strictly engineered for highly specific workloads, particularly a process called inference.
Okay, let's use an urban planning metaphor here for the listener. A standard GPU is like a massive 12-lane superhighway. It is built to handle any type of vehicle, trucks, cars, motorcycles going to any destination.
Yeah, lots of traffic.
It is incredibly versatile, but it takes up a lot of space and costs a fortune to maintain. A custom ASIC, on the other hand, is like a high-speed rail line. It only does one thing. It takes one specific type of train from point A to point B, but because it is specialized, it moves incredibly fast and uses a fraction of the energy.
I love that. That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the physical architecture of the silicon. A custom ASIC essentially removes all the microscopic traffic lanes that the specific application will never use.
But hold on, why does the actual running of the AI, the inference, drive this need for custom chips so much more than the initial training of the AI models.
That is the core technical divide driving this market rotation. Training an AI model requires you to crunch trillions of data points to learn patterns. You absolutely need the 12-lane superhighway for that.
Because it's so unpredictable.
Yeah, standard GPUs are the best tool for the job because training requires raw, flexible computational power. But training is an event. You train the model once or, you update it periodically.
And inference is what happens after that training is completed.
Yes. Inference is the model applying what it learned to a real-world prompt. Every single time a user opens an app and an algorithm decides which video to serve them next, that is an inference calculation.
Wow. Okay.
ByteDance executes those calculations billions of times every single day. If you use a power-hungry, generalized GPU to do that repetitive task, you are wasting an enormous amount of electricity. A custom ASIC, designed only to run that specific trained model, executes the task faster and cheaper. Compute costs will absolutely crush profit margins if they are not strictly controlled at that scale.
So ByteDance brings in Qualcomm, Broadcom, or Marvell to design the high-speed rail line. But even with those custom designs in hand, these companies cannot build the physical chips out of thin air.
No, they can't.
They require specialized tools and manufacturing facilities. So TSMC and Applied Materials are raking in cash to physically build these custom chips. We are looking at our next group of winners, the pick-and-shovel providers.
Right, because you cannot just draw a modern chip architecture on a whiteboard and hand it to a physical factory. The design tools and intellectual property layer are completely indispensable. Synopsys, ticker SNPS, and Cadence Design Systems, ticker CDNS, stand to benefit immensely here.
They provide the software, right?
They provide the advanced design automation software.
Explain how that software actually works in this process. What are they automating?
They are providing the digital test grounds. A modern AI chip contains tens of billions of microscopic transistors. Before a chip is ever physically manufactured, it must be entirely simulated in a digital environment.
To make sure it actually works.
Exactly. Software from Synopsys and Cadence verifies that the electrical currents will flow exactly as intended across those billions of pathways. If you make a mistake in the physical manufacturing process, you waste millions of dollars and months of time.
Oh, man.
You use Cadence and Synopsys to simulate the physics so you catch the errors on a screen rather than on a physical piece of silicon.
That makes total sense. And along with the software, there is the foundational architecture. ARM Holdings, ticker ARM, benefits if these new custom chips utilize their designs.
Yeah, and ARM does not build the chip.
Right. They essentially sell the geometric blueprints of how the transistors should be arranged. They provide the literal alphabet that a company like Qualcomm uses to write the chip's language.
And once that language is written and simulated, you still need a factory. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, ticker TSM, remains the key foundry for actually producing these advanced chips. They possess the physical facilities capable of printing these microscopic designs onto silicon wafers.
Wait, let me challenge that dynamic for a moment. If ByteDance is pouring all this capital into custom chips to avoid being locked into a single hardware provider like NVIDIA, aren't they just trading one monopoly for another by relying entirely on TSM to manufacture these custom designs?
It definitely looks like a similar bottleneck from the outside, but the financial leverage is entirely different. When you buy a finished GPU from a single designer, that designer dictates the final price, the profit margin, and the software ecosystem you operate within.
They hold all the cards.
They hold all the pricing power. TSM, however, operates as a toll bridge. Yes, you have to pay the toll to cross, and TSM makes a fantastic profit. But once you pay that manufacturing toll, you own the chip.
Right.
You own the intellectual property, and you control the exact cost of operating it inside your own data center. You are trading a pricing monopoly for a manufacturing partnership.
That distinction makes a lot of sense. But TSM needs their own highly specialized tools to operate that toll bridge, which brings in Applied Materials, ticker AMAT, and KLA Corporation, ticker KLAC.
Applied Materials and KLA are critical to the equipment side of the manufacturing cycle. They provide the physical gear for manufacturing, packaging, inspection, and process control. Making a cutting-edge chip requires manipulating matter at the atomic level.
It's wild to think about.
It is. KLA provides the machines that inspect the wafers for microscopic flaws. At the nanometer scale, a single speck of dust acts like a boulder crashing into our high-speed rail line.
It ruins the whole thing.
It ruins the entire chip. This entire group of equipment providers benefits as capital expenditure rotates away from just buying standard GPUs toward the physical creation of specialized hardware.
So every dollar ByteDance spends on a custom ASIC is a dollar they are not spending on a general-purpose graphics card. And that leads directly to the merchant GPU leaders facing pressure, the direct losers in this specific scenario.
We are looking at NVIDIA, ticker NVDA, and Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD, facing pressure in this environment. But we have to apply careful nuance here.
Right.
These companies are absolutely not going to zero. General AI demand remains incredibly robust. Standard GPUs remain the undisputed workhorses for training massive models and handling general inference workloads across the broader market.
Well, if the total pie of AI demand is constantly growing, does it actually matter for NVIDIA or AMD if they lose a slice of the highly specialized inference market to custom chips? I mean, they are still selling massive volumes of hardware for training.
It matters deeply for their profit margins, and in the hardware sector, margins dictate the stock valuation. Consider the mechanics of pricing leverage. Currently, if a company wants to run a large AI workload, they essentially have to buy from the merchant GPU leaders.
Because the buyers currently have no alternative.
Exactly. Because demand vastly outstrips supply, the hardware leaders set the price and command premium profit margins.
So they have total pricing power right now.
Right. But the moment a massive customer like ByteDance proves they can successfully build their own custom chip for specific inference tasks, that customer suddenly gains extreme leverage. They no longer have to buy the premium standard GPU for every single task.
Oh, I see.
They might only buy the standard GPUs for the initial training and then use their own custom chips for the day-to-day operations.
So even with overall demand growing, the hardware makers lose their absolute pricing monopoly on the inference side of the market.
Yes. That loss of absolute pricing leverage is what creates valuation pressure on the stock. A company's revenue might still look incredibly strong, but if their profit margins start to compress because they have to negotiate harder with their biggest customers, Wall Street will adjust the valuation multiple downward.
That makes perfect sense. Beyond the direct competition in data center hardware, the movement of investment capital creates a vacuum in other sectors. We see collateral damage in mobile and regulation, starting with smartphone-exposed suppliers as secondary losers.
The mobile cycle has been severely uneven. As investors rotate their capital toward data center infrastructure, custom silicon, and artificial intelligence, the mobile-heavy names lag behind.
Right.
Qorvo, ticker QRVO, and Skyworks Solutions, ticker SWKS, are tied primarily to mobile radio frequency components. Apple, ticker AAPL, which is central to the mobile ecosystem, falls into this lagging category as well.
Explain the mechanics of why a rotation of investment capital structurally starves these specific component makers. Like, why does money flowing into data centers hurt Qorvo?
It comes down to consumer behavior dictating enterprise research and development. For a long time, consumers upgraded their smartphones every single year.
Right, like clockwork.
That constant upgrade cycle provided a massive predictable stream of revenue for companies like Qorvo and Skyworks, who design the chips that allow phones to connect to cellular networks. They use that revenue to fund their research and development.
But consumers are holding onto their phones for 3 or 4 years now.
Exactly. The replacement cycle has stretched out. The volume of chips being sold has plateaued. At the exact same time, enterprise spending is exploding in the data center market. Wall Street heavily rewards growth.
So the money moves.
Yes. Investment capital flows out of the mature, slower-moving smartphone supply chain and pours into the companies building AI infrastructure. The mobile component makers are left with less capital to fund their own next-generation breakthroughs.
There is a striking irony regarding Qualcomm's strategy when you look at it through that lens. Qualcomm is actively pivoting away from a lagging smartphone sector, essentially leaving companies like Qorvo and Skyworks behind.
Yeah, they really are.
They're jumping directly into the custom AI space, sidestepping the stagnation in the mobile market by applying their mobile expertise to a different problem.
They recognize the plateau in mobile. They are leveraging their existing engineering talent to capture the aggressive growth in data centers before the broader market fully completes its rotation. But there is another category of secondary losers we must thoroughly consider: China-exposed names.
Yes. United States restrictions around advanced AI chips and semiconductor equipment make revenue highly unpredictable for companies operating internationally.
If Chinese platforms push aggressively into custom chip development, it invites stricter regulatory scrutiny across the entire supply chain. NVIDIA, ticker NVDA, and Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD, both have exposure to international demand that fluctuates based on these rules.
But the regulations go beyond just the companies designing the chips, right? It impacts the companies making the physical machines.
Yes. The equipment makers like Lam Research, ticker LRCX, and ASML Holding, ticker ASML, are highly sensitive to export controls. The mechanics of these regulations are incredibly complex.
I can imagine.
If regulators view custom chip development by foreign platforms as a method to bypass current hardware restrictions, they might respond by tightening the rules on the manufacturing equipment itself.
Because even if a foreign platform designs a custom chip perfectly, they still require the machines from ASML Lam Research to physically print it.
Precisely. The regulators understand the physical bottleneck. That brings companies like Lam Research and ASML directly into the crosshairs of regulatory pressure. Their revenue streams become hostage to geopolitical negotiations rather than pure market demand.
So bringing all of these complex mechanics together, what is the core conclusion we can draw regarding the broader hardware landscape?
The defining takeaway is that the hardware trade is broadening. The market is moving away from a phase defined by simply acquiring as much generalized compute as possible, regardless of the price.
Right.
We are entering a phase defined by strict operational cost control and highly optimized platform-specific designs. Qualcomm repositioning itself as a custom silicon partner is a perfect indicator that the definition of a winning hardware company is evolving. The focus is shifting from raw power to extreme efficiency.
We started by looking at a headline about Qualcomm and ByteDance, and it really reveals this large transition from off-the-shelf hardware to bespoke silicon. It leaves you with a final question to ponder. If every major software platform successfully becomes its own custom hardware designer to aggressively cut operational costs, how does that alter the barrier to entry for the next generation of technology startups who cannot afford the enormous upfront capital to design their own physical silicon? This is not financial advice or buy or sell recommendations. This is purely the opinion of the author.